What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Bischoff and Brown right here on the Detroit Lions podcast. He's Scott Bischoff. I'm Russ Brown. We are back after kind of giving ourselves a bye week last week. Scott had no power. I was insanely ill, which I probably end up coughing a little bit during this episode. So if I do, I apologize. But
I shit the bed again. It happened.
Yeah, we both did. But that's okay. All we would have been talking about is a Lions victory once again as they escaped the Minnesota Vikings 31-29. Great game. But what we're going to be talking about today is the Titans game, where the Lions absolutely destroy the Titans in Detroit. But before we do, Scott, my man, how are you?
I'm good. I am excited. We're gonna be in Green Bay this weekend, the family and I. So that's gonna be a fun one. I've never been to Labeau.
That's gonna be awesome.
Kind of curious, like, what's the vibe gonna be like? We were in New Orleans last year. It was awesome. New Orleans is the great place to go catch a football game.
Do you guys go once a year to a new stadium?
We just started kind of doing it. We did Chicago 3 years ago.
How was that?
Last year, and then Green Bay this year. And I was kind of wanting to do the Indy game, but I got vetoed, which is cool. I'm good with where they are and going to this one. Maybe it's good timing with some of the stuff that's good that we're going to see in Green Bay. But back to the Tennessee game.
Yeah.
Wow. Like
52-14.
I don't think Tennessee played like terribly.
Not the first half.
And it's like the Lions I don't know what the Lions had from a production standpoint. I know they didn't produce a ton of yards. They didn't have to, any of that stuff. But like, I think it's just, for me, the recognition of like, all right, we're at our own 30. We just took a kickoff and we're going to hand the ball off to our running back, and 70 yards later, we'll find him in the end zone.
Yeah.
And he's not going to get touched. When we do the scouting thing, I always giggle at how much of a jackass I am at times, right? Like, so you get one where you feel a little bit right, and those are the ones that stick. Like, oh, I was so right about, but I comped him to Jamal Charles, Gibbs.
Yep.
And I just thought that's his play style. Like, once he gets downhill, once he gets downhill, if there's any space for him to operate, he's gone.
Yep.
And he's going to create chunks of yards.
Yep.
And you see it in that game, that 70-yard run, and other plays of his where it's just like, how do you defend that?
Right.
You take a bad thought, not even a bad step, just a bad thought. If you're chasing him and it turns into a bad angle where you're toast.
Yeah.
So I think it's just the idea that you can conservatively play offense in the NFL and score from distance with relative ease is kind of a nice thing to witness. And I'm glad that it's the Lions doing it, because I would not want to try to figure out what to do defensively against the Lions right now.
Yeah.
You got the run stuff, and Montgomery's awesome.
Well, and here's the thing on the run stuff. NFL.com has a running back success rate, kind of a statistic or analytic, whatever you want to call it. But number 5 is Kyren Williams from the Rams at 46.8%. Bucky Irving is number 4 at 47.4%. Falcons running back Tyler Algier third at 48.5%. But number 1 and number 2, Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. Gibbs is first at 50%, and Montgomery is 49.5%. And this is simply measured off of what they're doing as far as what they're gaining on first down, second down, third, and fourth down, and essentially what they're gaining to the down and distance. So are they if they gain 7 yards on 2nd and 4, they're getting, this percentage, and then so on and so forth. So that all added up. Gibbs and Montgomery are making the most out of almost every single opportunity, it seems like, or that percentage of the time. So just incredible what they're able to do. And you're right on Jahmyr Gibbs, how explosive he is, how fast he is. Seeing that 70-yard touchdown run, it's a difference maker. And it's one of those where you could be down, 4 points in a game, playoff game, divisional game, whatever it is. And even with a minute left on the clock, you could give him the ball, just a quick handoff like that, and you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, the odds of him being shut down in the backfield are slim to none. So,
yeah, I mean, think about being a D coordinator and looking at, okay, this is their running attack. These are the guys that we got to get to the ground. This is the way they like to throw the ball. And also, there's all this trick stuff, like the Montgomery touchdown pass, that you got to pay attention to. Like, you really got to be thinking, like, I know that the Lions they do stuff for a reason. It's very specific what they do. They're doing things. I mean, obviously, I'm sure it's a lot of fun. And you can imagine if we just transport ourselves into the locker room after that game, everybody's talking about the missile Montgomery unleashes and the perfect spiral and all that stuff. And
which we've been asking for, a pass from Montgomery for a touchdown. It finally happened.
Yeah, but think about a coordinator thinking, okay, even when we think it's a run, I'm going to ask you guys not to bite so hard on the run, right? Well, that leads to bad angles.
Yeah.
That leads to big chunk plays. So there's so many vibes. There's so much good vibes going on with the Detroit offense. And then, their defense is just, we're going to talk about their pass rush, right? Yeah. But they're just such a joy to watch. And just, that was an NFL team they played on Sunday, and they just kind of, that was a hot knife through butter.
Right.
In a lot of ways. Like, they could have had, I don't know how many defensive opportunities they had to score, whether it was a punt return or a kick return or a pick, or another pick kind of thing. Like, there's a lot of that going on. They're, I don't know. I get more uncomfortable with this after every week that goes by with how good they look and how good they are.
Yeah.
That was a dominant performance in a lot of ways, and it was fun to watch. It was awesome. Great game.
And I will say, they gave up some chunk yardage on the ground. I would never be overly concerned there, though. I mean, just the fact that they have DJ Reader, they have Aleem McNeil, they have Jack Campbell, Alex Anzalone. Those guys are so good at stuffing the run. You obviously have Brian Branch. They do need to figure out who's going to play at defensive end on a pretty consistent basis. And I know Pascal was out for this one because of the illness, so that had something to do with it. I don't think Isaiah Thomas is the answer. I've seen, however many snaps he had. I can't remember what it was, but I watched that game through the coach's lens, and it's like, okay, I've seen enough. It's fine if you want to keep him here as a rotational guy for a play or two, but at the end of the day, he's not the answer. He gets washed down way too frequently and those types of things. But I will say, getting a pass rusher feels like priority number one. There is this rumor going around that there's 100% certainty that they're going to add somebody on defense. Don't necessarily know what that's going to look like and what the compensation will be or who that player will be, but I would have to assume they are going to go get somebody, because it's what they're doing is not sustainable for success on defense after looking at how long Mason Rudolph had and the fact that Calvin Ridley, every time you turned around, he was open because he was given so much time to get open. He was targeted 15 times. He had 10 receptions. So I still think there's a lot of positives with the defense. They're getting really good turnovers. Nowaski's turning into a really good Sam linebacker, it seems like. That's what they want to play him as. Tyron Arnold continues to be in phase. He had a couple of pass breakups in this one. And he gave up passes to Calvin Ridley and those types of things. But again, if the pass rush isn't getting home, that's why Ridley's so open at times. So I think the fact that they just shut him down in the second half and did what they had to do and got the stops and got the turnovers, I think that was far more important than anything that we saw in the first half. And I think the fact that they're getting Pascal back this week against Green Bay, I think that'll pay off in a big way for them.
Yeah, this is a huge game. I would think Green Bay's 5-2. The Lions are 6-1. Jordan Love is injured, right?
Mm-hmm.
Green Bay has maybe Green Bay's 6-2. I don't know. I should know this. However, the Lions are in a position to walk into Green Bay, come out with a win, and inside their own division, you have 2 games against the Bears, you have the Vikings at home, and you have the Packers at home. And I like that, right? Especially considering you'd be up a game on both the Vikings and the Packers by virtue of beating them in their stadium. So huge game in the NFC, obviously big game in the North. I don't know what to make of the Jordan Love stuff. He's got an injured groin. Do you want to jump right there?
Yeah, let's get into it. No, you're good. You're good.
I can't imagine a game in week 9 being important. I mean, it's an important game, but it's week 9 and they've already experienced missing him for multiple weeks earlier in the season with the sprained MCL. Do you think they would risk, unless he gets healthy real quick, do you think they would risk like aggravating that groin bit in a big way to play him this week in a week 9 matchup? You know what I mean? With 8 or 9 weeks to go, whatever it is.
Yeah,
I'm not going to be great at the math today, but whatever.
They're 6-2. I just looked it up, but they're going to.
So they got a bye week.
Yep, they got a bye week after this week, and they're going to stretch this thing out for as long as they can. So I think it's going to be one of those where they're going to test him pregame, but I don't think he's going to play. They're going to keep Detroit guessing.
Can I go back to everything I said about starting about 5 minutes ago and re-say it now that I know they got a bye week coming?
Yeah, I mean
that changes things.
Yeah, you give him an opportunity to get 2 weeks off. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, like if you're the Packers, every game certainly matters, especially in the division. But I think when you look at just their schedule overall, I think the second Lions game is probably far more important, especially as you get through that stretch after this first Lions game. I mean, you'll have to play the Niners. You got the Dolphins. They got to go to Seattle. The Saints will probably be dead by that point, so they should be okay there. The Bears should be off, I think, by the end of the season. So, I mean, they could go on a little run in the second half, and I think that might be a little bit more important than just trying to squeeze out this one win and preventing Jordan Love from helping you down that stretch. But they've got to find a way to keep him healthy because this is now 2 injuries for him this season. And I think that's important. I mean, that is very important. And when you're playing a team as physical as Detroit, do you really want to risk it for that one game? I don't know. And I think that's the big thing is Detroit's going to come into this thing physical. They always just under Dan Campbell seem to play better in Lambeau Field than any coach that we've seen in the last 30 years. So,
well, it's a premier matchup. I mean, I think Jordan Love, I think Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, Dobbs, Downtavion Wicks, Tucker Kraft, Josh Jacobs, like that's a really good offense, a really good young offense.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then you have Malik.
Lion Fitz.
Yeah, and Malik's going to run the ball. I mean, there's no doubt. He's going to have 10 to 15 carries in this game alone, and he's probably going to throw the ball 15, maybe 20 times at most. But, they're going to limit that, and if anything, it's going to be a lot of short area throws. And obviously, I think if anything, the Packers are going to try to design and scheme things up to get guys open down the field one-on-one with Amik Robertson or, Carlton Davis or potentially Kindle Vildor if he's out there for a play or two. So I think we could see a lot of yo-yo motion, a lot of return motion, that exit motion that we see very common in the NFL. I think there's going to be a lot of motion, and they're going to try to get guys out of the box so they can either run underneath it or get somebody an advantage one-on-one out in space. That's how I view it.
I think you're 100% right. I think some of that stuff is defined, very specific designs for quarterback, right? Like we like you running, but when these plays are open, take them. Yeah, we'll see a lot of Josh Jacobs in this game. I think you're right about the play, about the design for how you would attack the Lions on defense. They're playing really good, so. even if Love does play, I think it's a great matchup. Like Green Bay's offense against the Lions defense is a really cool matchup.
Yeah.
The Lions offense against the Green Bay defense is a really cool matchup.
Yep.
Is Jair Alexander going to play? That kind of matters a lot to me.
Right.
There's some of the stuff that has to be resolved. We're doing this on Tuesday evening. Lots of unknowns at this point in time.
Right.
Big picture, I think that an offense as efficient as the Lions. It was one of the takeaways from the Tennessee game was you didn't have to do much to score, all those points. And I know the defense and turnovers set them up a lot, but that's kind of what they're doing, against everybody. So against even if it is Jordan Love, I could see them turning the ball over on him.
Yeah.
And getting themselves in good down and distance, good position. And,
it just feels like the mindset to the defense has changed as well. Like when they had Hutch, it was always kind of like, oh, we don't have to play as aggressive in the back end because Hutch is going to get home. He's going to get pressure. That's going to put us in position. We don't want to be out of position by being too aggressive and all those types of things. And now it's like they're getting really aggressive on the back end and forcing turnovers to create that opportunity now because they're not really getting that pressure as frequently. So it's almost like the philosophy switched in a sense, and now they're punching the football out a bunch. They're getting interceptions. I mean, Brian Branch is a beast back there. And I think that's going to make a difference with how Josh Jacobs runs the football. And I think that's going to be a difference in how Malik Willis throws the football for a guy that doesn't get a lot of reps.
Yeah.
How is he going to see the field when he's got as much press man as he's going to get and all this man-to-man stuff that the Lions get to run? So I think that's very important. I will say this, my one question, and I did not mean to cut you off there.
No, you're good.
My one question was the Lions offensive line. I'm not saying it's problematic, but Taylor Decker giving up a couple of different sacks this year, and that's going to happen. I'm not calling for him to be let go or anything like that. But
yeah.
I mean, that's going to be an intriguing matchup in itself for Rashawn Gary and those guys that they have coming off the edge. Lucas,
he is a frightening presence for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Edgerrin Cooper, their linebacker, he was to me the best pass rushing inside linebacker in the draft. So, do we see him utilized at all at any point up the middle on some type of A gap, B gap type stunt? Do we see something with a TE stunt? What are we going to see there? So I think there's going to be a lot of intriguing things that we see from Edgerrin Cooper. And they've got two of my favorite players from this past year's draft, Javon Bullard and Cooper. So I think it's going to be so much fun to watch. But the Lions offensive line will have to give Jared Goff time because he's been taking some shots the last couple of weeks. So that was the difference last year to this year. He did not get hit. This year he's getting hit, and he got banged up on Sunday. So that's worth monitoring as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's low ankle sprain kind of thing. But yeah, you're a valid point. He is taking shots. He's getting hit. The move that Key put on Decker, on the first sack was awesome.
Yeah,
like a dude as big as Arden Key is to be running like under Decker the way he did, kind of like dude runs under your kitchen table and you got to block him. Good luck.
Yeah.
Right. So. But still, yeah, I mean, it's a problem. He is getting hit. The nice thing about the Lions offense is that they're so multidimensional in a variety of ways. So it's like, we think multidimensional. We think, they can run, they can pass, they can do all those things. Well, they can run a variety of ways. You can run some outside zone stuff with speed. You could run gap stuff.
Yeah.
Both their guys can do that.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to hit, the short area passing game, you can do that. If you want to hit the intermediate parts of the field, you can do that.
Yep.
Goff's great at that kind of stuff. Throwing the ball into the middle of the field.
Yeah.
Eggs and that, those kinds of things. So there's so many ways that, I mean, Ben Johnson right now, to me, feels like a guy who's got it all just going, right? He should be playing cards somewhere because he can't lose kind of thing. But there's so many ways that the Lions offense can get things done. But it all starts with protecting Goff and making and allowing him to feel comfort. And he's really grown as a player. There was a time where I don't think he was real good against pressure.
No.
And now he's just tearing up blitzes, kind of stuff. So a lot of that is personnel and things that they like to do.
And they made an interesting move today. They activated from the injured reserve list or whatever the hell it's called, Christian Mahogany, the offensive lineman.
Yeah.
So I think that's important because they are banged up with Ragnow. They are banged up with Glasgow. They are banged up with Kevin Zeitler. He is battling a hip injury. So you got the Jags and the Colts coming up. I just wonder, was this a timely, and they've got the Texans as well, but this is a timely activation on their part. Do you bring this kid in at any point against the Jags, the Colts, or even the Texans if you get up on them? Stephon Diggs is hurt, Nico Collins is hurt, that team's banged up. Do you get up on them and then all of a sudden you're like, you know what, Zeitler, get out. Hey, Glasgow, move to center. Ragnow, get out. This kid's going in at left guard. So I think you almost...
It would be awesome. I would love to see him. And I think we both, coming out of Boston College, he was one of those, I can't wait to see this in camp, right?
Yeah.
But he's missed so much time. I don't know what his fitness is, whether because he's been on NFI, the illness list for
the whole season. So
the entire, I think since the beginning of training camp. So,
right.
Again, I'm talking out of my ass because I don't know exactly what the story is with him. But has he lost weight? Is he in good shape? Is he strong enough? Is he he probably is because they activated him, and we'll see. Right. I guess they would have just thrown him on IR if there were issues there, but I don't know that for sure either. I would love to see him play. I'm just fascinated to see what he looks like.
Right,
because I thought his tape was awesome.
I agree.
It'd be fun. There is a scenario where you could see, middle of the third quarter, some of these guys kind of resting a little bit. Yeah, to give guys snaps. It's good. It'd be a great thing. We'll see.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting because of how, when they did it and all of those types of things and the matchup coming up, you've been kind of rolling through teams essentially the last couple of weeks. Do you get in a position at any point where you pull a guy and you bring this rookie in? So I don't know. We'll obviously see what happens. We will jump into some other news here. Do you have anything else as far as the Packers?
No, it's just, I think it's a premium matchup in today's NFL between two really good young teams with intriguing talent kind of everywhere.
Yeah.
I look at the Packers and I thought I know people are going to giggle at this, but I really did like Jordan Love coming out. When everybody thought after the Rodgers trade that the Packers were going to go away, there was a fear like, what if Love's really good? And it goes from Favre to Rodgers to Love, and Love is really good. And then you give him Jaden Reed, really good player, Christian Watson, kind of an athletic freak, who's, you mentioned earlier, the hamstring injuries have sort of derailed the early process of his career, but they're loaded with receivers who are on, cheap contracts, and tight end Tucker Kraft, who's really good. Luke Musgrave, good player.
Yeah.
They're kind of loaded, right? So I think the Lions would have done okay and been totally fine if Hutchinson were still here, but the injury, the lack of edge rushing presence is a problem. Yeah. Right. And I know we're going to get into that stuff, but that to me, that is where, and it may not come to pass simply because Love might not play. So it changes the dynamic of what they do on offense. But I think this is a premium matchup. I'm surprised they kept it at the 4:25 window.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be Sunday night or Monday night for sure. But yeah. I love that it is at 4:30. I love those Sunday games at 4:30, prime time spot. You can do stuff in the morning, early afternoon if you need to. Get home, you got food cooking. It smells great in the house. Maybe you got a candle lit, cold beer in the fridge, and you're ready to roll. It's just
living the dream.
Man, is it great? That is the American dream. If I've ever heard it, that's it right there. That's the American dream. But I will just have one more point to add to the Titans game, and then just kind of this Packers preview as we talk about it. Looking at the, we're going to talk about JMO here in a minute. he's not going to be in this game against the Packers because he is suspended for the PED. We had a sighting this weekend, and I've been calling for it since he got picked up the day after the draft. Isaiah Williams played, very much so being open in the middle of the field, kind of like I envisioned him to be. I do wonder if he gets sprinkled in a little bit more in this offense this week against the Packers. Is he kind of your shot play guy in a sense where you get him in some motion, get him down the field? And he's not overly fast. I know what he ran. He ran in the 4.6 range. I know Khalif Raymond is your speedster. Yeah. JMO is your speedster. But do you get in a situation to where we saw it in the past? We saw kind of that slot fade against the Packers with St. Brown. We've seen it with Raymond. We've seen it with JMO. Is this kind of that opportunity? So I'm really excited to see his usage. Do they expand on it? Or did he simply just play because of it was kind of garbage time and that stuff? I don't think that's going to be the case. I think he is going to.
He was awesome in the preseason.
Yeah.
I mean, he really was. And he looked both explosive, from a quickness standpoint. But I mean, 4.6 is plenty fast enough.
Yeah. He reminds me identical to Jaden Reed, who is on the Packers side. So I think it'll just be interesting to see how both teams utilize that type of kind of gadget player in a sense. Yeah. And I definitely think Reed is far superior, and I think he's more than just a gadget player. But again, principles are kind of the same here. So yeah. I can't wait for it. I think the Lions will be able to run the football. I think Goff will play obviously better just simply because there's going to be bigger passing script and bigger opportunity to throw the football, because I doubt you get as many special team opportunities like they did to have those big returns. So yeah, we'll see. But
I like the idea of, just as an aside there, Laporta's usage is starting to kind of creep back.
Yes.
And it's important.
Yes.
I mean, it really is. And he took, it took him, I'd say the first 4 or 5 games, it was a little bit like, what's going on there? But, they feel like they're grooving with some stuff, and he's a part of that, which is good.
Yes.
I just, they're rolling. I'm fascinated to see what this is going to be like in a primetime slot on Sunday.
It is pretty remarkable that they, if they would have changed the script a little bit on offense week 2, they would be 7-0. Pretty wild to think about. Pretty wild to think about. But speaking of wild, there is a kid in Detroit that is just a little bit wild. Jameson Williams in the news again for multiple bad reasons. We did not get to talk about his PED suspension and whatever the hell it is that he took to be suspended for 2 games. But before we were coming on, there was news today that on October 8th, Jameson Williams was pulled over and searched, and they found a gun in the car, and there was no charges. But it's just a whole sticky situation. The body cam footage came out. He kind of pulled do you know who I am? I play for the Detroit Lions. I'm Jameson Williams. Of course, I've got a gun. I live in Detroit. All this stuff, but it's just a bad look. I know it's not illegal to have a gun, but there was not a license to have that gun. Somebody did not have a license to have that gun. It was him and I believe his brother in the car.
Yeah, his brother was driving. It sounds like JMO was a passenger, but all this stuff is, the context behind it and the details are a little bit, we don't know exactly what the story is, but the tone of it is he was in a car. There was a gun underneath his seat. It seems like in the article they're inferring that the gun was his.
Yeah.
But I don't know that. Like, that's part of what was left out. Like, they didn't detail that out specifically.
Yeah.
Or I just didn't. I missed.
Well, and the thing is,
so we're missing details on it.
Yeah, and the thing is it seemed like initially it was just a slap on the wrist, and now it feels like it's a much bigger thing because Detroit police has reopened it and they're looking more into it. So it just makes you wonder: is there another suspension coming?
I'm not even sure what they would charge him with at this point. I mean, right? Like, I don't know. I don't know what the process would be for the law enforcement to get involved because they didn't arrest him initially. And I think that's the complaint, is that he's sort of, hey, this is my name. This is who I play for. and then he got out of it, right? And I don't know the specifics of how we got to this point, and I think that context matters.
Yeah,
but big picture, all of this part doesn't. It's just another in the string of decisions where you go, like these things are piling up now. You have a gambling issue that came up where he got suspended and it got reduced. You had the performance enhancing thing. We're never going to know what it was.
Yep.
It wasn't steroids or anything like that. It sounds like it was something along the lines of either masking or, just a medication that he took that he didn't know.
Right.
Right. But I don't know that either. Who knows? We're never going to find out.
Yep.
And now this in the latest string of things where it's just like, wow. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff going on and a lot of potential, like, we can't be doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, and then you got the social media stuff, like, they win and then he's just driving around and flashing money and doing odd and end things. And, you're free to do whatever you want. It's your social media. It is what it is on that front. But 3 serious things that you just bring up, and it's just like, it's not a bad look on how it's going, especially when the whole emphasis of the offseason surrounding him in the offense was he was going to take on a bigger role. He was going to be more productive. He seems more mature. And that's what it felt like this summer. Wow, he's really grown. He's starting to grow up. He's starting to see the big picture. He wants to be great. Now we're in the season and, we're a 6-1 football team and these are the things that are coming up. So it's just like, what do we do from here? He's facing a gun charge here and that's what it's going to probably be.
Yeah.
Again, it might get swept under the rug and nothing, but if a gun charge does come up, I mean, I don't know what the NFL suspension protocol is. Every time I try to search it, the articles of Jamison Williams keep popping up. So
who knows, right? Like, I don't think we know, and I don't think we're gonna know.
Yeah.
As far as what law enforcement does, and then what the NFL decides to do, to me, this feels like this is probably something that I don't want to say a lot of people do, but this kind of stuff happens, right? It's not like it was an illegal. I mean, the gun apparently was registered in his name, I think, if I read the article right. But again, it's not super specific. Right. So I guess the issue is that he wouldn't have had a permit to carry the gun.
Right.
So, and I'm not sure what the charge would be, and I'm not sure what the punishment would be in the eyes of the law to understand what the NFL that would then do about it, right? Like, he didn't hurt anybody. He didn't shoot the gun. He didn't do any of that stuff. So to me, it doesn't feel like this is anything that the NFL would get involved with. I wouldn't think, but
I won't think so. But
the NFL tends to want to. I mean, if you watched the game last night and you saw the catch that Pickens made, where he gets his left foot down twice, but not his right foot, and they call it a non-catch, I'm like, I might as well put my head in the blender. Like, what? How is it not a catch?
Yeah, that's funny. I was watching that live with my wife, and I go, I don't think he caught that. Both feet didn't come down, and this, and that. And I go, I think the one foot tapped twice, and then sure enough, that was the case. And just kind of an odd rule, like,
it really is. So if he catches the ball at the 10 and just hops on his left foot into the end zone, is that not a catch?
Right.
What is it? It's weird. It's so bizarre. The point is that I think the NFL just has a very strange, not necessarily a good flow to what their discipline is. Like, look at the Rashee Rice situation.
Yep.
And it almost feels like in those scenarios, they want law enforcement to wrap up their, everything that happens legally before the NFL decides what they're going to do. And I mean, if the city of Detroit decides that they're not going to pursue anything, I can't imagine that the NFL would. I don't know though. So we're talking, way down the line, way ahead of, potentially what could happen. But,
boy, is he altering his future though.
He really is. And that's the problem, is all these things are adding up.
Yeah.
So
it just, I had this thought, and I probably should just keep it to myself, but whatever, podcasts, root for radio, whatever. Do you think at any point here with the need for the pass rusher, you got these other guys, do you throw J-Mo into the deal, try to get a bigger name, a bigger fish from the pond? You know, do you try it? Does that change anything with the locker room? Does that change anything with what you're trying to do? Does any team even want to take on the baggage that you're currently seeing? You know, so
I would say a team would be just because of what he offers, potentially, you know, as a player.
Right.
The other thing is, I'm sure the Lions have paid the majority of his of his first round deal, right? Plus 5th year option.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, I would think he'd be a very attractive piece for somebody, but they have to be seeing all this stuff too. So, maybe a team like,
I'm not saying trade him to the Raiders to get Max Crosby. I'm being
no.
I'm not even saying the Browns for Myles Garrett. It's more of like, is there a team out there that, you know, has a pass rusher that's available? Is it one of the Saints? You know, one of the guys for the Saints? Is it something like that? I mean,
yeah. I mean, Cincinnati has Trey Hendrickson. I've been kind of pounding that drum for a while.
Yeah, T. Higgins.
They have T. Higgins.
Right.
Would T. Higgins fit in Detroit? Yep. You know, yeah. But, you know, I think the pass rusher they probably end up with is likely Zadarius Smith from Cleveland. I think that's a reasonable guy to go get, super inexpensive, who is capable of giving you some stuff, while not really hurting you in the future at all.
Right.
A player like that. But I mean, I would, you know, to be honest with you, I hope it's not a one and done thing. I hope they need multiple.
Yes.
This year. They really do. So, you know, I mean, they're going to try different things, but we'll see. You know, they're in a great place right now. Obviously, you know, the Hutchinson injury sucks, but, you know, it's remarkable what they're doing both offensively and defensively, and they need to bolster things. So we're going to see action, I guess, in the next week.
That's on November 5th.
Yeah. So we have, last year, everybody was really bummed about them not, you remember the Chase Young stuff? Like,
yes.
So I'm happy they didn't go get Chase Young.
I'm with you.
And the Montez Sweat thing was going to cost them Terry and Arnold in some respects. They were going to lose, realistically, their first round pick,
right?
Because Chicago gave their second round pick, and to compete with that, right?
Yep.
Plus, they had to pay him. I don't think the paying him thing matters so much. It's because Montez Sweat's a good football player, and he'd be good here. It's just, you know, does it derail the future? Do you really want to put everything in one basket, kind of like that? You do it, you do it for Crosby, but Crosby's not available, or at least I wouldn't think that he is. So we'll see. You know, huge game coming up Sunday. Really intriguing matchup. Super interesting kind of X's and O's on both sides of the ball for both teams. And then we got the trade deadline, and, you know, moving on to next week. So we'll see.
A lot of stuff happening. I was going to add something, but I cannot remember what the hell I was going to add. NFL trade deadline. There is news within the division. As we are doing this show, this was reported 20 minutes ago from Ian Rappaport on Twitter, or X, at Rapsheet. The Vikings are adding a new left tackle after Christian Darrisaw got hurt and is out for the season. He tore his ACL and MCL. They added left tackle Cam Robinson. And
wow. Okay.
Yeah. So the Jaguars are kind of, don't want to say they're, you know, waving the white towel, but they gave up a starting offensive tackle for them. And
what did they get?
They gave up a 2026 fifth round pick that can become a fourth based on playtime. The Vikings got a conditional 2026 seventh that will go away based on playtime, as well as Cam Robinson. So they make a quick move to get help for an injured player. And I will say this is bad news for Detroit because it's a competent offensive tackle for the Vikings, but it is good news for Detroit at the same time because, one, I don't think Cam Robinson is as good as he once was, but also, to add to that, this might cause a little bit of a, hey, you know, inside the front office, we might need to go get a guy if the guys around us are starting to
Yeah, we need to make a push.
Yeah, we got to make a push here. So I think it's a good sign for Detroit that the teams around them are making some trades. So we will see what happens with the Packers. We'll see if it keeps rolling. It'll probably be a tight game just simply because it's a divisional game. And as we said, the Packers are no slouch. So I think we got to buckle up for 4 o'clock and see how this thing goes. But you got anything to add, my friend?
Nope, we're good.
Cool. Well, I got nothing other than rating, reviewing, and subscribing to Detroit Lions Podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all other podcast platforms where you get your favorite shows. And of course, you can follow us on X or Twitter at Russ NFL Draft, at Bischoff_Scott. We will be back next week, same time, same place, to review the Packers game, preview the Texans game. So we will follow up with you guys next week. Enjoy the game. Enjoy your week. He's Scott Bischoff. I'm Russ Brown. This has been Bischoff and Brown.